they brought up the idea of me building a house, and built a nice house, a really, really nice house, impressive. After I moved here, a cousin of mine contacted me and said, "Hey, your uncle did something bad. Why would he do that? How did he do that? I'm not even there."
Has he made any comment about fleecing you? What is the story, everybody? Pete here from Thairish Times. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. So it's been over 2 years since I interviewed my last guest on the channel. His name is Dakota. He's Thai American, and he probably has the most interesting stories I've ever covered on the channel. We made 2 interviews with him. The first one was about his life story. He had a fascinating life story. He's Thai American. Father was an American soldier in the Vietnam War. Met Dakota's mother in Thailand, in Isan. They moved to Dallas, Texas in the early 70s. Didn't work out, and Dakota's mother went back to Thailand when Dakota was 3 years old, and then Dakota never thought about Thailand again until a strange encounter with a Thai exchange student in America, which was actually the first time Dakota ever heard Thai being spoken when he was 33 years old, led Dakota to finding his Thai family and going back to Thailand, and then enter part 2 of our interview we did 2 years ago, where Dakota moved to Thailand, started a life in Thailand, and then had his land stolen by his Thai family. So that was part 1 of part 2. And this video, part 3, there's been a major update on that story, which we're going to get into in part 3 as well. And also Dakota's going to talk about his health issues as well, because he's waiting for a kidney transplant as well, which is linked to his Thai family as well, as you'll see in this story. There's a lot to cover in this interview. I understand a lot of people probably haven't seen part 1 and part 2. If you haven't, we're going to get Dakota to summarize both of those interviews in this interview in the first 20 minutes. So if you haven't seen part 1 and part 2, stick around for the start and you'll get the whole gist of the story, because you'll need that information if you want to carry on to part 3. If you've already seen part 1 and part 2 and you know the story, click here, start the video from here. Woo, we got a lot to cover. Let's get straight into it. Hope you enjoy. Here we are again, Dakota, part 3. Okay, I have to say, your interviews, the interviews on this channel, probably one of the most powerful interviews we've had. I remember when you wrote the email to me, and I had no idea that you were going to be such a good storyteller, and it just blew my mind, the whole story. We're going to get into it today as well. Now, I do understand a lot of people probably don't know what we've covered in part 1 and part 2, so we're going to kind of summarize it in the first 10 minutes of the video and do a recap, because the audience need to know. So can you explain, first of all, your background?
Okay, well, my background, I'm half Thai, half American. I was born in Thailand, and when my father was a soldier during the Vietnam War, and 3 months after I was born, my father was discharged from the US military, and he came back to America with my mother and I. And a lot of people might not know this, but the US military had this huge Air Force base in the northeastern part of Thailand. The province is Ubon Ratchathani. And I think now some of your commenters or viewers might want to correct me, but I think Ubon Ratchathani International Airport, that was originally laid out and built by the United States military. It's now their airport. And so my mother went from probably the most rural part of Thailand to a major city in America. And it was very difficult for her to adapt. And so after about 3 years, my mother and father separated. Mom returned to Thailand alone. And my father and I remained in America, where I was raised. And then I grew up here, totally American, only speaking English. American culture is all I knew. But when I reached the age of 33, this crazy opportunity landed in front of me to go to Thailand and meet my mom's side of the family.
Just quickly explain that crazy opportunity because that is mind-blowing.
Yes, yes. Well, I was just a normal working guy, and I had a friend and his wife. A crazy opportunity fell on their lap to host a foreign exchange student. They had never had an interest. What it exactly was, it was the guy or the family who lived across the street. They were always hosting a foreign exchange student. They were part of these programs. And there was a boy who landed in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas airport. He was a foreign exchange student. His family, his host family, bailed on him at the very last minute. He was literally in the airport on US soil. And the family said, I'm sorry, we can't host him. So my friend's neighbor, in a panic, walked across the street to my friend's house and said, listen, I'm so sorry to put this on you, but there's a foreign exchange student at the airport right now. He has no place to sleep tonight. You have a big house, plenty of space. Can he sleep in your house tonight? I will make arrangements. And my friend and his wife said, sure, he can spend the night. One night turned into two, into 3 nights. And in those 2 or 3 days, they really enjoyed him, this 16-year-old boy from Bangkok. And they said, is it possible he can stay here for 1 year? We have plenty of room. And they quickly did the paperwork, I mean, in a rush, and they made it happen. He ended up staying with my friend and his wife for the year. And my friend knew that I was half Thai because that's just a common question people would ask of me. Hey, what's your background? I would say I'm half Thai. So my friend called me and said, hey, you're not going to believe this, but my wife and I were hosting this foreign exchange student. He's a 16-year-old boy from Bangkok, Thailand. Would you like to come over and meet him? Of course, I said yes. I was very intrigued because at the time I'm 33. I had never, ever met anyone from Thailand before, despite being half Thai. Never. And so I went over there and met him. And that's how the opportunity landed on me. I walked in, he was intrigued with me. Because I look Thai, but I don't speak Thai. That blew him away, and he asked about my background. I told him father is a U.S. soldier, mother is Thai, and how they broke up when I was about 3 years old. And he asked if I had any contact with them. I said, unfortunately, not at all. But I always knew my mom's full name by spelling and everything. I knew it, and I knew where I was born. And this was December 7th, 2007, a Sunday night in Texas. And with those two pieces of information, my mom's full name and where I was born, and he opens his cell phone. This is the time there's flip phones. And then he's dialing. And at this moment, I remember he said, okay, it's perfect. It's morning time in Thailand. And at that moment, that's when I learned about the difference in time, roughly 12 hours. And he starts talking on the phone. And I remember telling you this, that was the very, very first time in my life I've ever heard someone speak Thai. And I was just blown away. And like the typical foreigner, I was telling you, it just sounds like gibberish. It doesn't even sound like a language. And so I'm talking to my buddy, catching up, and at the same time, in the corner of my eye, I'm sort of watching him and listening to him speak Thai on the phone. He hung up a couple of times, dialed again. This went on for about 30, 45 minutes. And I remember during that time, he asked me if I had an uncle, and I wasn't sure. I heard my father once mention my mom had brothers, how many I didn't know. And after about 30, 45 minutes, he hung up the phone and he walks up to me with this little piece of paper and says, here's their email address. And by the way, your mother passed away 5 years ago. And at this moment, I'm in disbelief because it just didn't seem like, how can you have done that? And I remember the email address. It just seemed like one of those spam email addresses. It didn't look real. It wasn't like someone's name at whatever Gmail or Hotmail.com. It was just seemed like just a group of random letters and numbers, and that just didn't seem real. But he wasn't laughing. He was very serious. And so I remember I went home and looking at just this little piece of paper. It was a Hotmail email address. And I remember thinking they have email in Thailand. I mean, I've never left the US. The US is all I've known. I sent an email saying, hey, I got this email address from a kid named Ming. That's his name, Ming. And sent it off. Got a reply the next day, and they said hello. And the reply, it had an attachment, and I opened up the attachment, and it was this picture. It was a color picture, blurry color picture. Back when color pictures first were invented, they weren't anywhere clear like today. And it was an image of a young guy holding a baby. And my initial thought, what is this? And then I increased the size of the photo and looked, and I said, I think that baby is me. Because it's not every day we see our own baby photos. And so at first I thought it was just some crazy photo, but as I looked, I was convinced. I just, 70%, 80%, 90%, 100% convinced that baby is me. And so I replied and I said, I am that baby in the picture. Who are you? And they said, we are your family. I am your mom's little brother.
Wow.
And I'm just the feelings in me, the adrenaline. I'm like, you can't be serious. And at the time, there was MSN Messenger. They asked me to download it and have a video chat. And I went, wow. I didn't have a video camera. I had to rush out to go buy one, get it connected, and we set up a time. And I remember just sitting there. I had my camera up, and when you're waiting, their side, the share screen is black. So I'm waiting and waiting, and it finally illuminates, and it's a group of people. It's my mom's little brother, his wife, which would be my aunt, and there were two young people, their two children, which would be my cousins. And my two cousins, their English is pretty good. And I'm just kind of a little confused. I'm waving hello. And then they're holding pictures up to the screen. And the first picture they held up, I'll never forget. It was a picture of my dad when he was about 18 or 19. And he was skinny, which now my dad, as he's grown, he's put pounds on, but his face was still the same. And I'd never seen a picture of my father skinny like that before. And I just started laughing. It was like, wow, that's my dad. when he was 18, 19 in the military. And then that's it. No doubt. That was it. And then they showed pictures of my mom, and then we started communicating. And this was a few days after I got the phone number, or no, an email address from Ming. And then they said, hey, you should come to Thailand. And so I went and got a passport. I'd never even had a passport. So I went and got one. And the following month, the first week of January of 2008, I flew there, scheduled myself to stay only for 1 week. I did not know what it was going to be like. In my mind, I thought, no matter how bad it is, I can tolerate it for 1 week, because I had a lot of fear in me going there. Even though I'm half Thai, I've never left America. And I just felt, well, Americans are taught that this is the safest place in the world. This is where you want to be. And here I am leaving this safety zone, I guess you want to call it, and going to a third world country. So there was a lot of fear. And I get there, I met them. The entire week I had, it was very emotional. It was amazing. I think I barely slept the entire week. And then I'll try to go through the story real quick, but they invited me to come back in April of that year. And they said, hey, we celebrate our new year during April. And so I flew back April 1st, scheduled myself to stay the entire month, the entire 30 days. That's the limit a person can stay on just a US passport, and celebrated Songkran. And again, it was awesome, an amazing experience. And then at the end of the month, I left. They said, hey, you should come back, move here. And my first question, well, what kind of job can I do? I can't just sit around. And they said, oh, no, you can be a teacher. And teach what? And they said, teach English. And my question from that is, well, how can I teach English if I can't read, write, and speak Thai? And they said, oh, no problem, no problem at all. You just go in the classroom and talk. And I thought, well, that doesn't seem right, but I said, okay. And so they advised me to fly back October 1st of that same year. And they said the schools in Thailand have their mid-year break, about a 3-week break. It's a good opportunity to get an English job real easy. Should be very easy for you. So I did. Flew back October 1st. My first 2 days in Bangkok, I decided to stay in Bangkok. Well, they advised me to. And I visited 7 schools in my first 2 days in Bangkok. And I believe 3 or 4 offered me a position right on the spot. It was school number 7 I chose. And so I liked it. I have a job and I have a place to stay. I'm in the country on my US passport. And even though by default, I learned that because I was born there, mom Thai, father American, I'm a dual citizen by default, but I didn't know this. I only intended to stay 1 year, but when you're having a good time quickly becomes 2, 3, 4, ended up being 7 years.
Let's talk about the part 2, because that was the one got a lot of reaction from people in the comment section about the land dispute and the issue with land ownership between you and your uncle.
Okay, when I got to Thailand, they showed me my mom's property, her land. And they said, this is yours. And my mom had 2 separate pieces of land. She had a plot of land where her house sat on, which there wasn't much left of the house. It was just pretty much falling apart. Then there was like about maybe 1 kilometer away, there was another piece of land where she had a little pig farm. And so they said, this is yours. And I said, oh, okay. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything when I went over there. I just wanted to meet them. but they said by, I guess by law, you're the son, this is yours. And I said, okay, wow, okay, thank you. And when the idea of me moving to Thailand came up, I said, wow, my initial thought was to live in Isan. The province is Amnatchalan, the province next to Ubon Ratchathani, where I was born. So I said, wow, if I live here, I'm going to need something more comfortable because people in Isan, all due respect, they live very primitive, very, very, very primitive. And I said, I can't live long term like this. I'm just not accustomed to it. So they brought up the idea of me building a house where my mother's old house was. And they said something like this would be about $25,000. And I said, oh, that's it? I mean, in America, you can barely buy a car for that much money. I said, okay. I transferred. We looked at other houses in the area to show me examples. And I said, oh, yeah, that's nice. And so I transferred them. I think it was either $20,000 or $25,000. I transferred over to them, and they started the process of building a house. They leveled my mom's land. They brought in a bunch of dirt, built up the foundation, and built a nice house. A really, really nice house, impressive. And the plan was for me to stay there initially. And then my uncle said, well, you might want to get a teaching job in Bangkok because they'll pay you more. The schools in Isan will only pay you maybe about half of what you can get in Bangkok. But I had this blue book in my hand. They call it the house registration or the Tom Beyond bond.
Yeah.
And it had my name on it. And I was the owner. And so I was like, wow, okay. I don't live there full time, but whenever I go visit, I have a nice, comfortable place to sleep. You know, a proper toilet, hot shower, air con, all that, very comfortable. I could stay there, no issues. When I returned to the US, it was 2015. And I believe it was about a year or two after I moved here, a cousin of mine contacted me and said, hey, your uncle did something bad. And I said, what did he do? He said he went to the AMPER, as their government office, they call it the AMPER, and transferred ownership of your house into his name. And I went, well, why would he do that? You know, how did he do that? I'm not even there. Now, to rewind back, my first trip to Thailand, January of 2008, that first week, they took me to the AMPER office and they had me sign documents. And I was told that signing these documents would officially put the land in my name. Officially, because I owned it by default because I'm the son of my mom. But signing these documents would officially put it in my name. Now, all these documents are 100% Thai language, and I'm signing my name in English, and I'm taking their word. So as a lesson to the viewers, always have documents translated to English. I trusted my family 100%. No reason not to believe them as far as I felt and from what I saw. And so in my mind, I owned the land and in my name. And I didn't keep a copy of the documents, my mistake. And so when we built a house, we had to get a Tom Beyond bond, a house registration. I had that. Now my name was in there in English. That was the only thing in English. The rest I couldn't even read, but I was told that's the house registration. So I physically had that with me here in America. And then my cousin said, hey, your uncle did something bad. He transferred the land and the house into his name. And I was not happy about that. And new information from the last video.
So you were back in the US when you found out the land had been transferred, or your uncle had taken possession of it, or you didn't own it anymore. What happened since then? So that was probably the end of our second interview. What's happened since then? Any updates?
Well, the major one, yes, I found out through my cousin that they sold it, the
They
land
sold
and
it.
the house. They sold it. And whenever you do a real estate transaction like that, it's two separate transactions. It's a transaction for the house and a transaction for the land. Okay, it's unlike America. When you buy a house, the house and the land, that's one transaction. So they sold it, even though I have the Tom Beyond bond right here in my home. They sold it somehow. Somehow he did it. He had to have known someone at the government office, because I wasn't there to sign anything. And so it's a 100% fact. Some type of fraud took place. And they sold my house. And then my cousin, or my uncle's daughter, she said, hey, after the fact, after another one of my cousins told me, she said, hey, we sold everything and here's your portion. And my uncle's daughter deposited 800,000 baht, which is what I paid for to have the house built, into my account in Thailand. And then
Okay.
my cousin said, hey, that's for the house. There's another 1,000,000 baht for the land.
For you.
Yes, for me.
Have you got that money
And
yet?
so my cousin, my uncle's daughter, still has it. And so she gave me the money for my house, but didn't give me the money for the land. So I didn't communicate directly with my uncle's daughter about it. I have several cousins who are on my side. They know what she did is wrong, and they know that it's my money. So when I do overcome my health situation, which I haven't done yet, but I will, I'm going to go back there. And my cousin advised me to bring all of them with me, don't go alone, and request my 1 million baht, because that's my land.
Have you had a conversation with her about this 1 million baht?
Nope, I don't want to do it over the internet because I feel I have no leeway. I feel there's no other way to do this than to be there in person. To be there in person. Because when it comes to exchanging emails or whatever, that can just easily be ignored. But if I'm there physically in person, I cannot be ignored, and I will demand my 1 million baht. And I have cousins standing on my side. They're going to be there with me, and I'm going to get it. I have no doubt. And I might part ways with a little bit of it because she does have a daughter, and I do care about her. I want their well-being cared for. And she's a school teacher in Isan. She makes 15,000 baht a month salary. Would be willing to part ways with it in order to send her daughter to university when she gets older. I do care. I'm not just a bloodthirsty American.
Yeah, I mean that 15,000 baht would be her. That's probably her retirement.
That yes,
Sorry,
yes.
the 1 million
So
baht. That 1 million baht would be her retirement.
yes, yes, I'm very loyal. I will always take care of people in my family. And I had a relative just recently was in a hospital in Bangkok. The option was to lose her leg because she didn't have the money for the top-notch medical care. I paid for that. I have no problem. I paid almost 200,000 baht. She still has her leg. But the option was because she's a lady from Isan, the Thai government only gives just the minimum health care just to keep someone alive. So the minimum health care to keep this relative of mine alive would have involved amputating her leg. Okay, she's fairly young, in her 50s. She just spent the remainder of her life in a wheelchair. And I said, no, I'm going to get you the top notch health care in Bangkok. Go to Bangkok right now, get a van. And she spent 3 months this was just within the past year. She spent 3 months in a hospital in Bangkok. And I sent money over there. I said, I want her to get the best. And she got the best. She still has her leg. They had to amputate a tiny part, like 2 toes. They had to amputate, but she has her leg. She can still walk. She's in her 50s. She has 20, 30 more years left. So she still has quality of life. I did that for her. I didn't have to. I did that. And I'll always do that. I'll always do what I can because I know as an American, I have more money and that's the way I am. But I want what's mine.
Is your uncle still alive?
He has the same illness I have, and he is still alive, but he's not going to live much longer. I have the best health care in America. Okay, I don't know if we shared this in the first video, but I have stage 5 kidney disease. I'm gonna need a kidney transplant. I'm getting the best care right now. I'm gonna get a transplant. I'm gonna be fine. But my uncle is not gonna get a kidney transplant. See, the type of kidney disease I have is genetic. It's on my mother's side of the family. So we have the same exact thing. I'm getting the best health care. He's not. He doesn't have much long to live. He's
Some
still
people
alive
would
though.
say that's his karma.
Could be. Yeah, I understand the argument. Yeah. And but I kind of lean more on the scientific side. It's just a genetic defect. We like it's called polycystic kidney disease, and he's not going to overcome it. And that maybe it's karma, but there, I get it. Yeah. And but no, he probably has about he can pass away any day now without real top-notch treatment.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
Well, when I was in Thailand, I guess what 2014, my last year, I spoke to him. Yeah, I think right before I left in March of 2015, so that's probably the last time I spoke with him.
Has he made any comment about basically fleecing you?
No, nothing at all. Only my cousins outside of Isan have told me the situation, have kept me. I have cousins live in Budidam, and I have a lot of cousins live in Rayong near Pattaya. And they're all telling me the same story. They're on my side. They say, hey, it's wrong. And so, but as far as any of my relatives in Amnatchalan, I have not communicated with them at all. Well, I mean, I do send basic communications, Happy New Year, that's it, but nothing about the property because I know if I try to bring it up over the internet, they can easily just ignore it. And like I said earlier, if I'm there in person, they can't just mute me or hit the X button and close me. I'm physically there. Can't deny me.
Are you still
And
friends with them all on like Facebook and your social
yeah,
media?
yeah, that's how we communicate. That's how we communicate on Facebook. There's the app and real popular in Thailand called Line.
Yeah.
The line I use that, and so to communicate. And so yeah, but I'm not. I'm disappointed. But when it comes to money, money can really alter people's thinking, and I'm really disappointed because I've already shown my willingness to be helpful. I did have to hit the brakes a little bit, and I think I talked about that in the first video how in 2008, that month of April, I financed that entire month. And then future or subsequent visits, I noticed that, hey, they were always wanting to pick me up, go to the restaurant, and obviously I would pay everything. So I applied the brakes on that. And that did kind of make them feel a bit salty. And so, but hey,
I look back at the
I'm not.
comments from our last video, and there was one comment kind of related to what you just said. The comment went like this: Your family saw you as the golden goose and your wife as a threat to the golden eggs. So basically, you brought your wife, who is Thai, back to the village, and
Yes.
she didn't get on with your family.
That is correct, and I would totally agree with that comment. I would not argue with it at all. They looked at me as a relative, but they also saw me as that golden goose. And I know of one time my a cousin came up to me and said, "Hey, oh, my teeth hurt. My teeth hurt. I need to go to the dentist. I have no money for the dentist. Can you give me money?" I gave her 10,000 baht, and that turned out to be a complete lie. And so I was very disappointed in that. And I also found out, and I don't know, but I was told this, don't know if it's 100%, but they said the real cost for my house was about $10,000.
So they
And they
fleeced you out of
used,
10K.
yes, that I can't verify that 100%. This is what they told me. And because right after my house was built, another house was built for my aunt and uncle. Basically, as a duplicate, same floor plan, had to have been the same company because it's almost a carbon copy. The floor plan, everything, and so they used that money that I sent them to not only build my house but to build them a house. That's what I was told. They said your house was really not as much as they told you. It was $10,000. And I went, oh, very disappointing. But hey, they haven't. I look at the positive things in life. It's just how I am because they were living in a very, very simple, typical Isan home, just the tin and very old. So I was disappointed that I was lied to, but at the same time, I was happy. Okay, now they have a real comfortable home to sleep in. It has aircon, has a hot shower, toilet. So I did get happiness out of it, along with the disappointment. Because had they simply asked me, "Hey, can you help us?" I would have. I would have, because I slept in that house for the entire month of April. I slept on the floor on this tiny little, I guess, bamboo mattress for the entire 30 days of April. And so I would have been more than happy to help them out because I mean, in my 20s, I started a small business. I did pretty good. I did pretty good in my 20s. Okay, when I was what, 26 or 27, I bought my own house in America. Not many people can do that. America is a very expensive country. So I did pretty good, not filthy rich, but pretty good for myself, which was my only goal. Just take care of myself because I thought I would just spend the rest of my life. And it's funny, you made a video one of your videos I watched, you took on the character, pardon me, of a private detective.
Oh yeah, that's an old one.
Yeah, I was actually a private investigator for 13 years. That's what I did. I had my own private investigation agency, traveled all over America from the ages of 20 to 33. When I moved to Thailand, I was a private investigator.
Wow, that's an
And
interesting job.
oh, I have all kinds of stories, and I really enjoyed it. It was a fun job, and I thought I would do that the rest of my life. I really did. I thought, and which is not a bad line of work. It's pretty good money. And so, but that's when I stopped that at 33. Like I said, 2008, the economy came, you know, hit a rock, I guess you can say, and business was slow for me. I was still doing well, making a living, not raking in money, but making a living. But I had all this free time. And like I said, the opportunity came before me to go to Thailand. So I went.
Do you think you'll pursue this legally?
I don't think it'll even go that far. I don't even think, I think the moment I step in there and I tell everyone, Nang Long, Nang Long means sit down. Because I can speak Thai. I've actually taught myself how to read, write, and speak Thai. Not great, but I can speak Thai. I can communicate, and and I can speak Thai since being at home the last 2.5 years, not working. I've had a lot of free time, so my Thai reading, writing, and speaking has improved tremendously. Okay, and so when I go over there speaking Thai to them, that's going to kind of change the playing field. I'm going to have cousins with me, but me doing the talking and explaining the whole situation, it's not even going to go beyond that little area right there. Because I've always been polite to them, I've always been good to them. I've never denied them anything important. Like I said, my cousin, she would have lost her leg, but she has her leg now. Okay, that's because of me. I'm not bragging, I'm telling the truth. I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to tell her to go to Bangkok. I didn't have to tell her to go to the best hospital. I did that. And I don't ask for anything ever in return. She just said, thank you. Hey, that's all I need. That's all I need. And I'll always be there if I can. And I'll tell, and they know that. They know that. So I don't think it'll go legally, and I'll get my money. And but I do want to part ways with, and I want to know 100% the money that I will part ways will be put in account for my cousin's daughter. She's about 10 years old now, to go to university. I'll do that. Go to university. You got it 100%, but you got to show up. And I did that for a cousin of mine here in America. It's illegal to purchase and sell a kidney across the world. But I have a cousin here in America. He's 19. And I said, listen, we'll do a deal. I'm not going to buy a kidney from you. But if you go to university, I'll pay your tuition and you give me a kidney. And his choice, he said no. He said, no, I'm not going to give you, I don't want to. And I get it. I was upset. I was really upset. He's 19, very good health, could easily go to the hospital, give me a kidney. He said no. And I says, okay, then I'm not going to pay your tuition, which he didn't even want to go to college anyway. He's too lazy. He'd rather work at a fast food restaurant. But I gave him an opportunity to attend university. I would have paid his tuition. So, and that's not buying and selling a kidney. This is family, the way I look at it. I'm not giving him money directly. And so I'm willing to help if I can. And he was in position to help me. I'm in position to help him. He said no, his choice. I get it. Donating a kidney is a very scary thing. It's not easy. It's painful. It's 3 to 5 days in a hospital. It's another several weeks at home recovering. So I was upset, but I get it. Because to be honest, I don't know if I would ever donate a kidney to anyone.
So do you have a donor now?
I've had 20 people. Well, the answer is no, I don't. Okay. I've had 20 people sign up to give me a kidney, exactly 20. All of them were medically denied. Okay. The requirements to donate a kidney are very strict. America as a country, we're not very healthy. 2/3 of people in this country are overweight. If a person is overweight, they cannot donate a kidney. That's just a medical fact. You cannot donate a kidney. So you take 2/3 of the country, eliminate them right off the bat, and then you have a third of the country. Okay. Most of those people are not 100% healthy because to donate a kidney, they check you from head to toe, not only you, but your family. And for example, my wife, she's perfectly healthy, but her little sister, no, her big sister and mom are diabetic. That disqualifies my wife. The pool of people in America who can donate a kidney, you're talking, it's very small. Very small. About a third of people in this country are even medically qualified to simply donate blood. And so I don't want to go off the topic, but no, do I have a donor? No. Will I get a kidney? Yes, I will get it from a deceased donor. The typical wait time, I was told initially for me would be 2 years because I'm in such good physical shape. I'll be 50 years old this year. Not many 50-year-olds are in good shape like me. I go to the gym every day, almost every single day. I go to the gym. And when I go to the dialysis clinic, I check in once a month. I'm almost the only patient who walks in and out. I practically look like a staff member. Everyone is either in a wheelchair, using a walker, crutches, someone is helping them walk. There's this one kidney patient. He is so bad, the van pulls up, they roll him out of the van on his bed to go into the clinic to get his dialysis treatment. This man cannot even get out of bed into a wheelchair. I'm on call right now, so my phone can ring right now. It could be a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years from now. But I'm going to get a kidney.
What's your plan after you get your kidney? You're going back to Thailand?
Yes, I'm going to come back to Thailand. And one of the amazing things my wife did, my wife owns land in her village in Butidam. She built a nice house for us. And she's going to return to Thailand in about 4 months from now. What she's going to do is build a wall around our house, a concrete wall. And again, she wants to be there while that's done. She's going to stay in Thailand for about maybe 3, 4, 5 months, then come back to the US. But she will come back to the US quickly if I get called in for a kidney. And I'm going to need someone around me round the clock for about 4 to 6 weeks. And then to be fully healed, it'll be about 3, 4, 5 months to be fully healed and considered 100%. Because when I get my new kidney, it's not going to last me the remainder of my life. It's a long-term Band-Aid. I'll be lucky to get 10 years out of it. That'll put me at about 60. And so the plan is there are advancements in kidney research. Oh, there's 2 options they're doing right now. There's the bio-artificial kidney. It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but it's the size of a flip phone. They have literally made one, and they're in the process of getting it approved. And there's another thing they've done. Let's see, genetically modified a pig. And they've taken that kidney out and they've put it in a person. Right now, 3 people right now as we speak are walking around with a genetically modified kidney in their body from a pig. And so that's very promising. So in 10 years, I'm going to have one of the 2, and that'll pretty much cover the rest of my life.
Do you ever wonder about your mom and about her life? Because if you think about it, she had such a, she left rural Thailand back, I think probably the 70s. She moved over to America. She was in this strange city. And at the time, I doubt Americans were quite, I mean, she went to youth, she was in Texas. I mean, it's not exactly at the time, it wasn't, people had different opinions on races, let's just say it that way. So it would have been tough for her, and then for the marriage not to work out, and for her to stay for 3 years, and then to leave her kid to go back to Thailand, and then she came back then when you were about, I think you were maybe seven, maybe more, you were older. You can tell, you can fill us in. She came back then later on in your life. You were still a kid, but you said in the first interview that you felt like you didn't have a strong affection towards her because she'd been gone for so long. You didn't have that bond, that motherly son bond. And then for her to leave again and go back to Thailand, and then for her to pass away before you got over there, and then she stayed in rural Thailand for her whole life. It would have been a tough life. She had a small pig farm. It would have been a hard life for her.
Okay, my mother arrived in America December 1974. Okay, I saw the paperwork. Okay, I was born in September. So October, November, December, I was 3 months old. Dad discharged. December of 1974, my mother arrives in Houston, Texas, huge city at the time. Okay, still is a huge city. And after 3 years, it was not only was America tough, not only was being away from her family tough, and not being around any Thai people, unlike now, pretty much all the major cities in America have a Thai population. And but what made it really hard, and the truth is, my father is an alcoholic. He's a narcissist, I'm being factual. I'm being no bias here. I'm telling the truth. I love my father so much. I do. But he has so many bad habits. My father has mental health problems, and it's a fact. He drinks because the drinking numbs him. It numbs him. When he gets sober, he can't handle it. It's too much pain. He goes back to drinking. He just wants to be numb. That's what alcohol does to the body. He's a narcissist. He doesn't have anyone's back. He's never had my back. And I've called him out on it. My dad has a little brother. I said, Dad, you're smarter than your little brother. You've got to have his back. That's what big brothers do. I'm your son. You got to have my back. I said, Dad, when you get old, I'm going to have your back. That's the cycle of life. Okay, my dad said, I'm never going to need anyone to have my back. I said, Dad, you're going to get old. I'm going to get old. I'm going to be there to take care of you, regardless. That's not an option. I'm going to be there. That's the type of person that we all should be. But my dad never had my mom's back. And when you're in a foreign country, you need someone to have your back because you just don't know the system. For example, when I was in Thailand, when you were in Thailand, there's things you needed someone to help you with because you didn't speak the language. Okay, example, when I was in Thailand, I bought a little pickup truck. I need to register this thing. I don't even know where to go. I needed someone to help me, someone to have my back. I needed to get a Thai driver's license. I didn't know where to go. I needed someone to help me. I needed someone to have my back. It's not that I'm weak, it's just that's nature. And here my dad brings this lady from the most rural part of Thailand to America, and my dad did not have her back. She's all alone. She's isolated in what could be described as a different planet.
If you think about it, it would take so much for a Thai woman to leave her 3-year-old son and to go back to her country knowing that she might never see her son again. So you can imagine maybe what was going on in the household at
Yes,
the time.
And I tell you, the last 2.5 years having kidney disease has been kind of a blessing in disguise because I've had so much time to think and reminisce and use that 100% hindsight vision. And it wasn't just my mom leaving me, it was my dad keeping me. Because my dad said, my son will not be raised in Thailand. My son is American. He's going to be raised in America and he's going to stay here. So it was a battle, a typical battle between spouses that happens every day. Husband and wife separate and they battle for the children. They battle for the children. And they don't really think about the children. They're just angry at the spouse. I'm going to have control. That's all it is. It's not about, they don't think, well, what's best for the child? They think, no, I want to win. And pardon. And so keeping me in America, it was a victory for my dad. It was a battle, and it was a battle that my dad ultimately won because he got what he wanted. I was raised in the US. I'm American. That's what my dad wanted. And see, when I was a kid, all my dad's friends would look at me and say, what is your kid? What is his ethnicity? Because my father is white, blonde hair, blue eyes. And here he has this kid who's has color and doesn't even resemble him. And my dad said, oh, he's half Thai. And I remember all the time my dad's friends, drunk, inebriated, they were saying, you need to bring that boy to Thailand so he can meet his family. And my dad would always dismiss it. And because my dad did not want me coming to Thailand, he was afraid of losing me. Because my dad, as harsh as he is, my dad loves me a lot. He treats me awful, but he loves me a lot. He did not want to risk losing me to Thailand. And that's why he never brought me to Thailand.
Did he ever return to Thailand after that in his whole life since then?
He never has. He never has. He was shocked when he found out that I went to Thailand at age 33. That shocked him. And I know it kind of disappointed him because he felt, damn it. Because I think in his mind, he knew that once I went to Thailand, I probably wouldn't come back. And which I ended up staying there 7 years, but I stayed in touch. I always sent him the postcard. Hey, I'm at this beach, and I told him I was having a good time, but he wasn't happy with me going to Thailand. I remember when I spoke to him, he said, yeah, good luck with that. Kind of a sarcastic tone about me being in Thailand. He wasn't happy that I was having a good time.
What was his reaction when you told him that your mother passed away?
Dry. His immediate response was, I said, hey, Dad, Mom passed away. Can you send me a copy of the death certificate? I mean, just no emotion at all. Not a, oh, I'm sorry, son, your mom died. Just very monotone. We're on the phone. Can you send me a copy of your mom's death certificate? And I said, yeah, I'll get it for you. No problem. And I got it and I mailed it to him. But yeah, just no emotion, nothing at all. My dad is a very depressed person. And he once asked me about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, why am I so depressed? Why am I so angry? And at the time, I was in my early 20s. And I think I know now, I have theories now, but I didn't know. At the time, I told him I didn't know. I said, you have a good life. You know, the biggest issue in a lot of people's lives is money. My dad didn't have money problems. He was pretty good. And so I think my dad definitely has mental illness.
Does he still live in Texas?
He lives in a state called Mississippi.
Okay,
Just a
and you're in
suburb.
Utah.
Yeah, I'm like a 3 day drive from him. I live in a totally different region of America.
How does your wife like living in America and Utah?
She absolutely loves it. Um, I live in Utah. When I was in Thailand, a lot of people thought I was crazy for moving to Utah because Utah has a large Mormon population, and I chose Utah because of the cleanliness, the people, they're educated, there isn't much crime here, and it's a beautiful state. There's mountains. I mean, our condo right now sets between two beautiful golf courses. So if you like golf, if you like to ski or snowboard, this is the destination to be. This is the place to be. So I knew she would like it. And as far as the Mormons, they definitely like to push their belief, their religion on you. But if you just politely say no, because they knock on your door and they invite you to church, and I just politely said no, I'm not interested. And I remember them asking me, "Oh, where did you guys move in from?" And I said, "Thailand." And the next day they came back with a Mormon Bible in the Thai language. And I said, "Thank you, thank you." But if you just politely say no to them, they don't give you any problems, no harassment at all, unlike popular belief. And this goes back to whenever I was in Texas telling people I was going to move to Thailand. People were showing concern. They were saying, "Hey, those people aren't Christians. They're Buddhists. They're going to brainwash you." And I said, "There's no way anyone can brainwash me." And so I lived in Thailand for 7 years. You lived there 7 years. We're not brainwashed. I respect their philosophies. If any Christian wants to argue, I say, hey, the Buddhist philosophy goes parallel with the Ten Commandments, in my opinion. And so, when I was in Thailand telling people I was moving to Utah, they were saying the same thing. "Oh my God, those Mormons are going to brainwash you. They're into polygamy," which, I'm not brainwashed. There's still people here who practice polygamy. It's not legal, but they still do it. But they're respectful. No one has pressured me. They'll ask several times when you first move into a neighborhood. They know they'll knock on your door, and this went on for about 3 weeks, knocking on the door every other day. "Hey, we just wanted to know you're invited." And they offered to pay your rent, your housing expense. They'll give you money for groceries. And I remember when we first got here, we purchased a vehicle. They asked, "Hey, do you need help paying for this vehicle?" Because they want to sort of buy you into
Yeah, so you owe
their
them then.
yes. And I've never accepted anything. And so I kind of have mixed. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but they sort of, in the way I look at it, they buy people into their religion by providing. See, when you pay 10% of your income and you're part of that, they've got you covered.
Well, Dakota, look, it's been amazing, man. I hope to get you on like down the line again, and
Yeah.
I'd love to get an update again on your health, and then your journey back to Thailand and all of that. We'll definitely get you on again,
Hmm.
and it was an absolute pleasure, man.
Yeah, same here, same here. Yeah, I bought a little stand here so the image would be more stable. Like last time I was using my phone, it was all crooked. And so, yeah, I hope
You
yeah, it's a
nailed
little
it.
bit better.
You nailed it. Well, look, it's an
Yeah,
absolute
all righty.
pleasure.
Yeah, same here.